That Scar has won a match. Base Invader has won 2. Lee Kish has won a match. And then Adderfield is a rusty but experienced player, so we could have a very good game on our hands.
Adderfield's a good player for learning, and I think for our final round, that would be fine.
Well, this is our 4th round out of 5.
I can't count.
We do have Base Invader, Adderfield, Lee Kish, and that Scar. I'm Phil Authentic. That voice you heard, other voice you heard, is NC Game Wizard joining us. What do you think of this map, NC?
Well, looking at it, I see a really strong scavenger spot, even with nukes on the map.
Look at all these prices. They're all dead.
Even better for scavenger. They're the ones who are going to be able to race through HQ levels, if you think about it. While the nukes are around, there's plenty of founds that would be very strong and hard to nuke out for a scavenger. They could just keep the forward momentum going.
Yeah, that Scar's going to take one of them.
And already up to level 2.
Because the prices are so cheap. We have a couple of expansives, and then another scavenger.
So one thing to consider is, again, widespread availability of water. This map doesn't really have it.
No. Plus nuke.
So those expansives are either going to be fighting over that water patch to the north, or are they going to be very thirsty?
Well, the other thing about an expansive, though, that I do like is if your water does get nuked out, you can at least have an extra claim to maybe try to get water somewhere else.
Yeah.
But so that's one thing where the scavengers will have a little bit of an issue potentially moving forward is if they get nuked. Also, this map call screams for a slant drilling patent rush.
Yes, that would be a very good way to help alleviate the circumstance. I think Scar is setting himself up really, really strongly, even with water as cheap as it is. Just because having the 2 of them, he's going to have good water. No one else, for at least a little while, is going to have that. So he's got options for when the prices start to get a little higher.
Yeah,
already moving into
not
farms.
Too thrilled about splitting up the water like that, though.
Yeah. I see it as more of an attempt to deprive the expansives. You could kind of see them once you'd hit level 2 and decided on those claims. That's what I'm going to chalk it up to.
Expansives have enough claims to do those sorts of plays. Scavengers don't.
Yeah.
Maybe
water's tight enough.
It could be very tight. Really, we'll see.
We'll see. But right now you can see water's actually really cheap. So this is mostly speculative on our parts.
Right. I mean, we're just speculating that, eventually, if the nukes get thrown around, water could be very difficult because there's only 4 mediums and then 7 lows left.
And nobody's setting themselves up great for adjacency. I guess the closest would be Adderfield, who's kind of made himself a long chain of buildings.
Yeah, I do like that in this case. Nice long chain.
With no power surges.
Yep, no power surges. The chain actually limits EMPs a little bit more than
a triangle necessarily.
Does. Power's getting high.
And the shipping.
Yeah, no shipping either. Power's getting high. That Scar's moving into 2 geotherms on HQ3, shifting out of those farms
a scavenger HQ
to go back into carbon. And this is one of those times where we could talk about the hidden prices. And one of those hidden prices is your upgrade resources. So right now, carbon looks really, really cheap. You're like, well, why is that Scar going back into carbon? It's really cheap. Well, yeah, but once you buy $18,000 of it,
it won't be cheap anymore.
It's not going to be cheap anymore. It's going to be decently expensive. And so you could be feeding Adderfield over here, who's had 2 carbon, a medium, and a low this entire game, a decent amount of money, unnecessarily.
Exactly, and it's important to think about when you're looking at HQ. Hey, am I the only nomad? That means certain things, whereas if there's 2 nomads, suddenly you need to think about the price of silicon, you need to think about money going into your opponent's pocket. I'm okay with these solar panels from Lee Kish. I might like to see a 3rd one.
Solar panels, yeah, they're decent. they're not super expensive. 5k, I mean, that's a little, getting there a little bit, but everyone seems to be more interested in mutating the geotherms.
Kish got down late enough that she's actually, or he is making power money.
Yeah, they did get down late enough they can make power money. They do have those extra claims. They're going into some steel and iron. So they only need 12k worth of steel to upgrade, so we were just talking about the hidden cost over there. But when you can potentially make power money, I don't know. This is kind of one of those edge cases. I think I'd just try to go for power, because it's not dropping. But
I would be in a spot where I would be taking the iron mine, because I know that once I've bought up all of that steel, it is going to be pretty valuable. But I would have 3 solar panels, and the 3 solar panels would give me the money I would need in the day to buy the steel to get the next upgrade. And as soon as I get that upgrade, I'm going to have iron already. It doesn't cost me anything to put those steel mills down just as fast as possible. I'm making as much steel. You can put down a whole steel triangle because you have an excess of iron because we put down the iron in an HQ earlier. I feel like strategically the iron's a good move, but the steel actually might not be, and that's rare, but that's my assessment.
Yeah, well, the only thing that would be going against you is this dust storm that just randomly popped up.
That's how life works for me sometimes.
You make a good play, and then an event comes out and says, too bad, so sad. So we'd have both of our scavengers up at HQ4 at Airfield, moving into a Pleasure Dome, has those 2 wind turbines up, and they're going to benefit greatly from this dust storm, which gives 100% bonus to wind production and 50% negative solar production, which is too strong in my opinion.
It's painful. It's really painful, but it is something you can make go away with 2 optimizations.
Base Invader is going into a patent lab somewhere.
And they're getting into a tiff over a hacker array. I 100% agree with that decision. Prices are still pretty depressed here. With that hacker array, you get to kind of write your own check for what do I want the next big successful market to be.
Yeah, that's assuming...
Congratulations.
Potentially, we'll just say potentially. It's a lot harder to hack in a 4-player game, and we'll have to see how that Scar handles that, because you need to keep track of what resources all 3 other players could be have stockpiled.
So do electronics, because no one has
electronics. We're going for a carbon shortage.
The black market is online.
Which
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, not when you're getting out of carbon.
And more to the point, you don't know what Adorfield has access to. He's got decent carbon as well, so really it's a danger to be shorting that. A real danger.
Well, Base Invader's going for nanotechnology first, which normally is a good choice, but like we've been talking about the potential for nuking, and Base Invader only has 2 non-adjacent mediums. You get slant drilling, you keep one of those mediums goon squatted, and you're set for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But everyone on HQ4... what is Adderfield? Adderfield's going for virtual reality. I think just people are making the mistake of not prioritizing slant drilling.
With 2 expansives on the map, virtual reality makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Adderfield has the dome up already, it looks like. Yeah.
There we go. It's slant drilling for Lee. So it's not that virtual reality or nanotech are bad patents. They're actually good patents in this case. It's just there's a potential for things to go way south for you if you don't have slant drilling.
One thing to consider is part of the benefit of slant drilling we're talking about here is how it insulates you from the problem of nukes with your water. Water's $5 and surplusing. So if you have a couple $1,000s right now, you could get 200 units of water, and you could make another day's worth of time on Mars without needing it.
Yeah, Adderfield's Pleasure Domes at their HQ, probably just so they could switch out of it later. Also, at the time they built, the colony hadn't expanded as far as it did. So now there's a really good spot to swap, put down a pleasure dome over here with 3 adjacency from the colony, and then that'll be very good for Adderfield.
Adderfield is making 432, yeah.
And then plus 30% on that. I like it.
True. But on the other hand, you know, it's a bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush. The dome's here.
An expansive HQ.
You know, somebody just upgrade, he's making another $30. You go and you set up another pleasure dome.
And a pleasure dome costs 4K. There's no reason not to do it.
Yeah, okay. I'm down with that. That's a good analysis.
Adderfield is the first HQ5, followed by Lee, Lee is going to get that slant drilling, which if water ever happens to be an issue, they will like that in the long run. Nobody seems to be using the black market though. We only have 3k EMPs, 3k nukes, and 2k dynamites, 4.5k mutinies, so we just...
Adderfield justifiably going thinking machines.
Yeah, we haven't looked at the Offworld market, and $47,000 launches. Pretty good.
Time to start improving
It only cost Adderfield $40,000 to put up a Offworld market. So yeah, thinking machines is great.
Important to recognize that how much benefit you get from thinking machines is based off how many claims are next to your HQ. So someone like the Nomad, someone like Adderfield, who is obviously very familiar with the mechanics of the game, going to be aware of, I'm getting more out of this than just my off-world defense. I'm also defending a pleasure dome and a patent lab, and I've got 6 other tiles that are benefiting from this that are just happen to be conveniently located.
Yeah, I mean, Adderfield's getting into the first off-world. They have thinking machines. Nobody else is getting an off-world. $42,000 off-world for the Expansives. The next off-world for the Scavengers is only 74. Those launches are 45k launches, even though oxygen's up to 124. So yeah, nobody challenges this off-world in any way whatsoever. Adderfield's going to be in a very strong position to win this game.
Ish making a lot of money in power all of a sudden.
Yeah, making $2,000 a second is really, really good, as it turns out. Unfortunately, it's just paying off debt right now, but there is a power short, so they might be able to pay through all their debt with this. I just want to see them use some of that $53,000 that they have to go for a $43,000 offload.
They have not yet come into play. If I was Adderfield, I would be thinking time to nuke Scar's carbon so he can't catch up with me with an off-world, or at least it's very unpleasant for him to keep his building transition.
Yes and no. If you're the person in the lead, you don't necessarily want to start a nuke war. Because chances are, once you remind everybody that, hey guys, there's nukes on the market, you're going to get more nukes thrown on you than you dish out.
But you've got the off-world. You know, you're in a spot now where time is your ally. And the nukes are supposed to be preventing the Scavenger from getting those quick upgrades, preventing them from getting off-worlds down easily. At this point, there's
no reason to tempt fate.
Fair enough.
Right, just use an EMP.
Yes.
Adderfield didn't go for the slant drilling. Their water's very vulnerable. As we've been predicting, that water's going to be high eventually. It's finally $70 a second.
So Kish has done a very good job of getting the water they need for their expansive stuff.
Kind of. They're using up 1.96 negative deficit. But they do have 3 mediums.
They have a lot of water production happening. Yeah.
They're just in a lot of...
Just so happens they've also got a lot of consumption.
A lot of our white life support there. They also might be... Yeah, sell out of that life support. Because they're propping the price up for other players who are also in it.
If you're gonna be in this much of the life support business, and you're gonna have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 buildings that are consuming 1 water apiece, you basically want to have gotten slant drilling and have a nice water patch. So, you know, there's that. He's not covering, but he's not dying.
No, he's just feeding other players water money, life support money,
Yeah.
by when they could be selling, auto-selling down that life support. It's what we, like, you sell this $400, that completely crashes the price of the fuel market. So these fuel reactors are not earning $215 per second anymore, or 190.
That is true.
They're earning far less. They're probably earning more like 30. Maybe even less now that there's 500 fuel here. So this is one of those fake prices that we talked about earlier. Simply because if you sell all of that, it's not going to be 150 fuel anymore.
That's true. That's very true.
It's going to be a lot lower. And look, Adderfield over here is getting, you know, getting $219 a second off of this fuel price, and they could be getting $20 a second off of it. Because
Adderfield going for a second Offworld.
Leakish is unfortunately just handing Hatterfield money on a plate.
An expansive HQ has been upgraded.
Yeah, Adderfield doesn't even have his farms running. Not sure he needs to. That $510 Pleasure Dome is not to be sneezed at either.
No, nobody's challenging the Pleasure Dome either. There's only one person challenging the Offworlds. This might be Adderfield's game to win.
Successful Offworld shipment.
I mean, there's still that triple spot here that, you know, one of our expansives could have gone for, or you could use an auction a tile to go for it. It'd be worth it, even if you're only getting, you know, 1/3 of that $500 per second. That's still $150, $180, something like that.
So earlier you talked about having multiples in the black market and having multiple black market items stored up to be using that cooldown effectively and proactively, even if you don't have necessarily an idea of precisely what you're going to do with it, just having it in the bank. Look at Leakish, that Scar and Base Invader, and you know that Scar has one nuke, but other than that they don't have any black market items bought up. I guess Kish just bought one
to use it.
They
right.
aren't using their cooldowns. Adderfield's sitting on 4 black market items.
Right.
So when Adderfield wants to start getting mean, he's got the goods. He's probably going to have goods coming in even then, because he's got a cooldown saved up, so he could have 1 extra of anything he can afford.
Yeah, and that's where when you're the leader like Adderfield, holding on to the black market's a good idea, because why remind everybody else that it exists?
Yeah. I do think when you start seeing Offworlds, you know, if you aren't going to use it then, why'd you buy it? But basically, yes.
Now, the one thing that we could say against Adderfield is Adderfield decided to go into that Scar first instead of the only other player with an Offworld being Kish.
I can see the stock reason. Scar had to whenever the buying was happening, and so Adderfield decided he was going to start getting aggressive with the person who was getting most aggressive with him. And hypothetically, if he does complete this buy, he gets more back than if he started going for Kish. So it's a thought, and it's a thought where I think psychologically Adderfield is worried that he could defeat Kish, but then Scar might have what he needs because Scar has been buying up stock proactively, which is something that you do see in free-for-alls, where you eat someone that's just a little bit too big for you.
Well, that Pleasure Dome was finally blown up.
Yep.
The wind turbine seems a little bit unnecessary, as if someone was paying attention, I believe the Offworld market on the north has been hit a couple of times. And sure, it's never fun to throw a dynamite at a thinking machine's Offworld, but when the dynamites are only $6,000,
I had it in free-for-all just before this tournament, where I had to throw dynamite at the thinking machine's Offworld until subsidiary income made me win. It's viable.
Right, I mean, it feels bad to do it, but denying somebody that money for 30 seconds and forcing them to rebuild, even if they're not paying very much.
Yes.
Still better than that sitting there. Now, a mutiny is okay.
Mutiny is good. Adorfield has what we call a defensive mutiny. And that's where you purchase a mutiny because it's cheaper than a goon squad, and there's a chance that instead of dynamite or an EMP, they use a mutiny. And if that's the case, then you could just take the building right back. You're in the clear. And that's cheaper than 110,000 for a goon squad. It just is.
Yes, it is. So unfortunately, for that,
pull that trick several times.
That Scar over here, they've gone into this hacker array, and they don't have any other late game buildings or plans.
Yes.
They didn't get.
I think they might have even picked up the array on an auction.
They did get it on the auction, so there's no optimizations because there are 4 resources that are right around 200 or more that you could be optimizing. No off-worlds. We've already mentioned a while. We've harped on it for a while how cheap off-worlds are. $50,000, $55,000 to put up for that Scar, and they could be making
also,
42 a second.
Going for these solar panels while $100,000 in debt. It's not bad to have power money to pay your debt, but it's not good to have 3 tiles that aren't making you money. And that's why you want to keep the debt under control, because the interest really makes it so now these solar panels aren't going to do anything for him, probably for the rest of the game. He keeps them this way.
Nope. And then, so this is one of the reasons why hacking on an FFA is hard. So that Scar just hacked up water. Yes. And Base Invader just sold down a bunch of their huge stockpile of water. So that Scar just transferred some money over to Base Invader here.
Yep, that's the beauty of screwing yourself over.
Hacking.
You can't get cocky with the hacker array.
No, you have to pay very close attention. I mean,
if you bet the farm on it,
Base Invader is buying into the hack. Well, oh no, wait, no, sorry, this was a natural water shortage. But either way, I think Base Invader was the only one to buy into that water shortage. Fortunately, they haven't been building the really cheap $57,000 off-worlds either, which would, until just now, which would have, paid for themselves off in 1.25 launches. They do have a lot of money, though. No, sorry, that's Lee Kish who has a lot of money.
Yeah, Lee Kish has a lot of cash.
And that's why Adorfield decided to go against them instead.
Right now, Adorfield would be decently well done if he were to sell out of that Scar.
Sell out of that Scar, sell down a bunch of resources, make the buy on Lee Kish.
That said, Adorfield is nearing what they need really quickly. I don't think this black market is going to stop them. Here in 9 seconds or so, Adorfield should have the buy.
It wasn't focused on the off-worlds, and those are the money makers in this game.
Successful off-world shipment.
Yep, there we go. And I expect here in half a second or so, Adorfield will figure out what he needs to do to make that money appear. He's sitting on 358,000. Adorfield, I know you can find this money.
Well, now they just lost it. They need 20,000 more. 10,000 more. So once this launch comes in,
off-world shipment launched.
10,000. So 20 seconds of this pleasure dump's time.
Now they have 527. They need 488. So just playing it safe. They'll get the buy. They'll have. Now the only thing they need to not do is. Okay.
It's hard to say whether Scar or Kish are honestly the better choice.
Kish. Because then you get all that stock in Base Invader.
Yeah, I see that.
Because
that's
Kish,
actually a good point.
we did the one thing that new players often do, the one mistake to try to extend the game. They purchase other people's stock, because purchasing their stock makes your share price go up, which makes you live longer. The problem is, it doesn't make your stock price go up enough to live long enough. And all you did was just hand the game to Adorfield on a plate, because now he has almost full shares in everybody, and he got them from you quite cheaply. bargain prices.
Yeah, you kind of need to concentrate your fire. You can team up with someone if they're happy to be concentrating their fire on the same person, but you never want to be splitting your stock unless you're just kind of trying to go, look at me, I'm winning.
Yeah, here we see that Scar finally in 2 Offworlds, not launching the correct launch, should just be launching Oxygen. And they have a lot of money. If they went to those Offworlds earlier, they would potentially be in a position where they could have been contesting Atterfield.
Hypothetically, what Scar would want right now, and this is not going to happen, would be to trust Base Invader to sell out of 1 or 2 stock in Atterfield so that he can have that money that you need for the big 5-share buy, and have Base Invader put up for the 5 stock that's necessary to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a very high-level play that requires coordination from both players, and so the correct move here would be for that Scar to sell out of all the shares, Base Invader to buy the 3, because that Scar has more money. And so then, Base Invader, that Scar
and
would
more
have to
income
pay,
earning potential.
Yeah, and more income.
Scar has 2 Offworlds.
That Scar would need to purchase Atterfield for 3 times Atterfield's price, instead of, you know, the current awkward price right now.
Yes. Whatever it comes out to.
Atterfield's just going to wait for these launches to go off, and then they'll pick their choice of that Scar or Base Invader. I'd pick that Scar. More earning potential.
I think that's reasonable. Also, he's got 3 stock in you. I mean, it's a small thing, especially when you're kind of sewing up the game, but why give your opponent any in?
Well, when part of the tiebreaker is time to win, being able to sell out of those stocks that you have and just win faster is always a good thing.
Yes.
Launch affirmative. What a payout.
You can see just how badly it's eating through Base Invader to buy up the stock now.
Right,
it would have been slightly better to pick it up if Scar was selling out, but really, this is done.
They have to pay $196,000 for 1 pip of stock.
Yep. And meanwhile, Atterfield already having 5 stock in Base Invader just has to make it to
18 seconds, one more launch, and then they'll have
500,000 and some. It's kind of a money race, Offworld. You know, that's one way to think about it.
Successful Offworld shipment. Make room for the profits.
And when you buy 5 stock in someone, you're basically saying, look, I'm going to get together $600,000 before you are. Go.
Atterfield does take it.
Yeah.
Recognizing that Offworlds were going to be the way to win it, patenting thinking machines. Water did become an issue later on in the game. And Lee did have, with slant drilling, did have plenty of water, but we did mention at the time that they were just in too many water resources, so, and they weren't stockpiling too much of it, so they weren't actually making any money. That Scar late to go into Offworld. If they would have went into Offworlds earlier, they would have had a decent chance. Same with Base Invader.
Now there's a mistake. Kish apparently thought the green was off at Offworld. He was correct. He decided he wanted to go into Base Invader. No. Don't you realize? I think this person is this person. I know their name. That's the person you need to kill. That you don't need to be going into who you think isn't at Offworld. Once you've identified the Offworld, you need to attack them mercilessly.
Yeah, Atterfield is one of our emergency Rusty player subs because we've had 3 people drop in this tournament so far. While going
One technically didn't start.
Well, yeah, they checked in.
One checked in and then checked out.
Well, they didn't
so
check
to
out.
Speak. Yeah, they checked out of their thing that they decided to check in.
Ridiculous entertainment revenue from Atterfield, almost $500,000 just from a pleasure dome. That's what one half an Offworld.
at $500, you know, a second, which is probably about average for what he was getting, that's about 1,000 seconds, you know, so that's doable in a game of Offworld, but it's like I had this strategy for the whole game doable. Yeah, that he just knew what he wanted, he invested in it, and he made his money. Offworld's a game, I think, that rewards thinking ahead approximately 2 minutes. If you can think ahead, you know, 10 times that for the length of time necessary to make that kind of money on your Pleasure Dome, you are doing a really good job. It's something to think about.